Hi, I'm Kimberly Kohler from KimberlyKohler.com, and today I have a video that's just a few tips for finishing your wire wraps. So over the next few weeks, I am going to be sharing a few tutorials on making wire wrap loop chain, which I have 3 necklaces. We're going to be making a layered look with 3 different necklaces. Any one of these necklaces is fine on their own, but I have created them so they all work together, or you can mix and match, just wearing 2, etc. And to do the technique for the chain that is in each of the necklaces, you're going to be finishing a lot of wire wrapped loops. So I just thought it would be a good opportunity to give you some tips for finishing them to make sure they don't snag you or scratch your skin or snag your clothing, just so it's nice and smooth and you don't have any issues. So that's what today's video is all about. So let's get started. So these are just little tips that are important if you want to make sure that your wires don't kind of snag you, get caught in your clothes, or kind of scratch your neck, that sort of thing. So here I have a wire wrap loop that I started. So we have the loop, and I have done a few wraps. Everything is nice and tight. The wraps are close together, not over each other, next to each other. And the first thing I wanted to show you is that if your wraps do kind of get spread out a little bit, you kind of get them a little bit far apart, they're not close touching each other, you can just take your chain nose pliers and squeeze them together. You can just do this on both sides. You see, I did this before I trimmed off the excess wire here, but if you already trimmed off your excess wire, you can still kind of just pinch them closed so everything is nice and close. The next tip I have for you is something you probably know, but I just want to make sure, is when you do cut off the excess wire, you make a flush cut. So your wire cutters will have kind of a front side, which is concave. You can kind of see it kind of dips down. The back side is flat. So when you're cutting wire to make a flush cut, so the cut is just straight cut off and not a pinch cut, which has what we would call a burr, or it's kind of got this tip end that's kind of pokey. You don't want that because it's going to poke you, scratch you, that sort of thing. So to get a flush cut, you want to use the flat side toward what you're leaving behind. So just go in there and you just cut off the excess. And now you can even kind of see this in the video a little bit. This end is still sort of poking up. So I have 2 tips for that. The first one is just get in closer with your wire cutters and cut the tip off. That's a especially valuable tip if you have worked the wire a lot and so this wire is pretty hard and hard to work with. You can't do the next tip I'm going to show you. So you would just trim off the excess just as close as you can get, even using the very tips of your wire cutters. So just trim that off, and then it's even closer. And in this case, it didn't actually come off. There we go. And so that's still that's pretty good, but you can always run your finger over the wire and feel if it's still pokey. This still feels a little bit like it's poking out. So this is the other tip I have, and you can use this tip without even trying to trim it closer. But you just take your chain nose pliers, position it over your wire, the end where you just cut the wire, and then we're just going to continue with this motion following the wire the way it was wrapping around and just trying to get that wire just close in. People say tuck in your ends and that sort of thing, and that used to confuse me when I first started making jewelry, because I was thinking, oh, these people are tucking, somehow getting the wire in between the wraps and something like that. And that's really not the case, or maybe some people do that, I don't know, but you don't have to do that. You just need to make sure that end is not poking out. So this motion, just do that a few times. It should bring this end of this wire down so it's right next to the other wires and not poking out, and it's nice and flat against this longer wire. So those are a few tips for you for finishing up wire wraps. This will help you in lots of ways, but it's going to especially help you in the projects that we have coming up that I'm going to be sharing, because we are going to be making a lot of wire wrap loops, and we're going to be making a chain that is actually wire wrapped loops. So you want to make sure each time you make a wire wrap loop, there's nothing poking out, nothing that can scratch you or get caught on things. So I hope you found these tips helpful, and I will talk to you soon.